We as a community need to be so much better at what we're doing. We keep buying the same brand, we're making the same mistake, and we're feeding into the same frenzy. There's another brand I need to talk to you about today. Let's turn away from Rolex and take a little time to talk a little watches. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Watch Dealers. I'm Lewis, one of the owners here at TWD, and today we're talking Breitling. But before we get into today's topic, I want to remind you, www.thewatchdealers.com.au. We've got you covered for all your buying needs pre-owned. In store this week, we're going to have this gorgeous Datejust 1601, one of Rolex's most iconic timepieces. This one's developing a gorgeous little bit of patina over the dial and hands. It's a tritium dial. Check out the store for that one. We're also going to have a Breitling Navitimer 41. Black dial, gold hands, 2 months old. Brand new, guys. It's going to be around 50% off RRP. Check the store out for those details. For the wristwatch check today, I'm wearing that Rolex Datejust 1601. This is a 1975 model. Full box and papers, developing an absolutely gorgeous patina over the dial. It's a reference with the pipe hand style dial. This one's got the two-tone 18-karat gold bezel and crown. All right, so let's talk Breitling, right? Founded in 1884, one of the oldest big Swiss watch brands in the industry. A watch brand that has taken a bit of a hit over its years and is starting, I think, to pick itself back up again. And I want to talk to you guys about that. Breitling struggled fairly heavily financially in the 2010s. It came after the back of about a decade worth of misses. They decided that large watches were going to be the thing, but they decided that far too late in the game. When we saw Hublot and Panerai corner the market and really raise prices of the industry overall, Breitling jumped on that. Big Navitimers, big Super Oceans. But then when the market started to go back and trend towards smaller watches, Breitling clearly didn't get the memo, and it took them far too long to realize they were now behind the eight ball. Well into the 2010s, they're still producing 46, 50 millimeter watches, and it wasn't what the industry wanted and what the consumer wanted. Even Hublot started releasing 38mm classic fusions, Panerai with 38mm, 40mm, 42mm watches rather than the traditionally Arnold Schwarzenegger-sized wrists that they were trying to fit their watches onto. It all comes to a head in 2017 when Georges Kern is appointed the CEO, taking over after the Navitimer 8 disaster. Now, Breitling poured a lot of money and a lot of research into the Navitimer 8 collection, and it completely flopped. No one wanted it. It wasn't a Navitimer. And Georges Kern very quickly and very smartly pivoted that whole collection into the Premier line. That really saved a lot of money for the brand and took the collector's eye away from what was going wrong and put them back into what they can do right. One of Georges Kern's best moves, in my opinion, was to steer the brand very quickly towards vintage reissues. This gets people to think about the prestige and the history of the brand, and a brand that has got prestige and history coming out the wazoo. This brand pioneered the flight instrument. He pioneered the professional watch. A watch for the man who works with their hands, who flies the airplane, who drives the car. It was that kind of brand. And they really lost their way until Georges Kern brought them back. When he reissued the Navitimer 806, the 1959 rendition of the Breitling Navitimer, he really sent a signal out to the industry that Breitling is back and they mean business. The 806 Navitimer reissue is one of the most faithful and beautiful recreations of a vintage watch that the industry had ever seen. So much so that there were vintage collectors out there who were saying that if it wasn't for the sapphire crystal or the modern technologies that were inside that watch, you would not know at face value that it wasn't a pristine 1959 example of the watch. Now that's something that we don't see often with vintage reissues. Usually something changes on the dial or the case will change. Breitling didn't do that. They basically cut and paste the 1959 Navitimer out into the market, and it was a spectacular move on their part and really steered them off in the right direction. From there, he scraps the Navitimer 8 collection and turns that into the Breitling Premier line and the Aviator 8. With the Navitimer 8 collection being scrapped and turned into the Premier collection, Georges Kern was able to create a whole new line of chronograph watches and time-only watches for new Breitling consumers. The consumer that wasn't looking for the heritage and wanted the style and design that the now Premier line offered. We're talking, beautiful dials, beautiful sunburst dials. He leads that whole collection out with the traditional Bentley collaboration. So still throwing a bone, essentially, to the collector of Breitling and saying, hey, we're still with Bentley, we're still doing the things that you guys love, but still offering gorgeous contemporary design for the modern consumer and the new consumer of Breitling. That's a fantastic little twist on that Navitimer 8 disaster. And then most recently, with the 1957 Super Ocean Heritage reissue. This is a watch that looked back to the surfing history rather than the flying history of, say, the Navitimers or the professional instrument technology that they were known for. It looked for that California surfer guy aesthetic, and it worked really well. And it worked really well when they even released a rainbow version of that watch. They sell out instantly and now are trading well above what they did sell for at retail. So Breitling has created demand for itself by using the reissue trick. And I say trick because we see so many other brands do the same thing, but oftentimes it doesn't last. Look at Tag Heuer. They're taking a very similar route right now with reissues in their heritage chronograph lines and branding things with just Heuer on the dial to speak to the older, more wistful consumer. That's another video for another time because ultimately I don't think that Tag have done it the right way, whereas Breitling have really tackled this problem head on and succeeded. And I think it's down to us as the consumer and down to us as the collector to really pay attention to what Breitling is offering and reward them for the efforts and the ingenuity and the creativity that they're displaying. If we as consumers are constantly going out and just buying the Rolex or the AP or the Omega, we're never going to reward the brands like Breitling, who are bringing themselves from the brink of extinction and offering the consumer base something that realistically we all wanted. Now, all of that's not to say that Breitling haven't had their fair share of missteps along the way. I mean, the new Chronomat, whilst I quite like that watch, it is a bit of a Vegemite watch. You either love it or you hate it. That new bullet style bracelet, it's not for everyone, and it's for some, not for others. So there have been those missteps, and I think the biggest one that they're trying to fight at the moment is the Navitimer collection. Georges Kern still hasn't quite captured the Navitimer collection the way that it should be. We have the Navitimer split into two distinct collections, both under the same name. There's the larger diameter chronographs, which really do capture more of the heritage of the brand. And then there are the three-hander automatics in the smaller case diameters. Now, in a vacuum, those 41, 35, and I think 38 millimeter Navitimers are beautiful watches, but they aren't really Navitimers. They don't have a chronograph. They don't keep any of that heritage or history. The true current Navitimer is the 43 and I think up to 46. But again, they're a little large, and so it would be lovely to see if Breitling can bring the Navitimer back into the collection in a place where it belongs, at the front of the brand. And by doing that, I feel they're going to need to create 40 to 43 millimeter Navitimer chronographs using their new B01 movement to keep the thickness down and make them ultimately more wearable. That's probably where I see the brand going in the future, just to try and right the ship even more around that Navitimer collection. So, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. How do you feel about Breitling under George Kern since 2017? Are you a fan of all the new reissues and some of the modern interpretations of previous designs? Or do you feel that there's more work to be done? Please, have your say in the comments below. If you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. It really does help. The last few videos are tracking really well, and I really appreciate your support, guys. Thank you so much. In the meantime, www.thewatchdealers.com.au. Visit the store, see what we've got in stock. There are some great deals to be had. You can find us on Instagram at thewatchdealersau. You can find myself personally on Instagram at GCWatchGuy. Until next week, take care.